Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Ready for another fascinating exploration? Today, we're diving into the world of relationships between older men and younger women.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Definitely.
It got some really interesting source material for this one.
Yeah, and, it's important to note that the language in the source material is heteronormative,
Right.
but a lot of the ideas and concepts can apply to all kinds of relationships, really.
Exactly. So we're going to try to keep it broad and avoid any kind of, generalizations.
For sure.
And we really want to encourage everyone listening to think critically about this stuff. Don't just take our word for it, or the source material's word for it, for that matter.
Right, question everything.
Exactly. So the source material we're looking at really digs into what makes older men attractive to younger women. And I think we'll find some surprising stuff in here. It's not all about looks.
No, not at
There's a
all.
lot more to it. We're talking about emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
the art of storytelling.
Yeah, the power of storytelling is huge.
Definitely and even. The right kind of touch.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It is. But we'll get into it. So where should we start with this?
With the foundation, according to all of our sources here, is confidence.
Okay, confidence.
Yeah.
So what does that actually look like? I mean,
Oh, wow.
how does that manifest in the context of, older men and younger women?
Right. Well, it's not about arrogance, it's more of a quiet self-assuredness.
I like that.
Yeah. Think about strong eye contact,
Okay.
a composed demeanor. If something goes wrong, they handle it gracefully.
Wait, don't freak out.
Exactly. And even the source material gives a specific example of a date gone wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and instead of panicking or getting flustered, the confident man just laughs it off.
Yeah.
Adapts to the situation, finds a solution.
So it's like resourcefulness, too. Not just like, oh, I'm so confident.
Right.
But like,
Right.
I can handle anything you throw at me.
Exactly. And it really plays into a broader psychological principle, which is that confidence is generally attractive, no matter the age difference.
Yeah, I can see that. Confidence is definitely a good starting point.
Right.
So what else is important here?
Well, emotional intelligence is a big one.
Okay, emotional intelligence. So the sources talk about younger women often seeking stability and understanding in a partner. So how does emotional intelligence fit into that?
Well, it's about navigating the emotional landscape with awareness and skill,
So like being in tune with your own emotions and the emotions of the other person.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And the source material actually gives some really good examples.
Okay, like what?
Like active listening, asking thoughtful questions to show genuine interest, validating feelings instead of dismissing them.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So imagine someone sharing a problem with you. It's not about immediately jumping in with solutions. Right. It's more about really hearing them, making them feel understood.
Yeah, just that sense of being heard can be so powerful.
It really can. And this actually connects with a lot of research on relationships. Emotional intelligence is a strong predictor of long-term success in relationships, regardless of age gaps.
So it's not just about this specific dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a general relationship skill.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. So we've got confidence. We've got emotional intelligence. What's the next layer?
Well, the next layer is building rapport.
Okay. Building rapport. That makes sense. You have to be able to connect with someone on some level.
Right. And the sources emphasize shared humor and common interests as crucial elements.
Yeah, humor can be a really powerful connector. Laughter can really break down barriers.
It really can, but it's not just about cracking jokes, The sources suggest responding to her stories with witty comments, maybe even developing some inside jokes along the way.
Yeah, like a shared language.
Exactly, creating a shared world of amusement.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Although, honestly,
yeah,
I don't know how witty I could be about the latest TikTok trend.
Well, that's where common interests come in. It's not about pretending to be something you're not, but it is about demonstrating genuine curiosity about her passions.
Yeah, I could see that.
So let's say she's an avid hiker.
Okay.
You could suggest exploring a new trail together.
Right.
Or if she loves a particular band, ask her about their music. It shows you're open-minded and willing to step into her world.
Yeah, and that kind of genuine interest can be incredibly attractive.
It really can be.
So we've covered confidence, emotional intelligence, rapport. What else do these sources have to say?
Well, interestingly, they highlight the importance of leadership.
Leadership, that's not a word I would immediately associate with. Romantic relationships, what does that even mean in this context?
Well, The sources define it as taking initiative and guiding interactions with confidence and purpose.
Okay, so not being domineering or controlling.
No, not at all. It's more about demonstrating capability and consideration, for example, when planning a deed. Instead of the generic, what do you want to do? A man embodying this kind of leadership might say, I know a great little cafe downtown, let's check it out.
Okay, so it's about having a plan,
Is.
but also being flexible. Like if that cafe is closed,
Yeah,
you have a backup option.
exactly. It demonstrates adaptability and resourcefulness.
Right. Shows you can roll with the punches.
Exactly.
Interesting. So we've talked about putting your best foot forward, so to speak. Does that mean we have to talk about physical appearance?
Well, the sources do address physical presentation,
Okay.
but they're not suggesting drastic measures or anything like that.
So no one's saying you have to get hair plugs.
No. It's more about self-respect and presenting a well-groomed appearance.
Okay.
Clothes that fit well, good hygiene, that sort of thing.
Okay, makes sense.
But there's an interesting point about fitness and health. That goes beyond just looking good.
Oh, really? What's that?
Well, the sources suggest that fitness and health can be indicators of vitality,
Okay.
which can be attractive to younger women.
So it's not necessarily about having like a six-pack.
No, not at all.
It's more about
Mhm.
taking care of yourself,
Right.
having energy,
Yes.
projecting a zest for life.
Exactly.
It's more about the energy you're putting out there
Exactly.
than trying to fit some kind of mold.
Precisely.
Interesting.
And speaking of enjoying life, that brings us to another fascinating aspect, the power of storytelling.
Oh, yeah, storytelling. That's such a great way to connect with people. I'm really curious to hear what the sources have to say about this.
Well, they recommend sharing compelling anecdotes,
Yeah.
stories that highlight your experiences and your personality. But there's an art to it, you know? Instead
Yeah.
of just saying, I went to Italy,
Right.
try painting a picture with your words, you know? Like, the aroma of freshly baked bread filled the air as I strolled through the sun-drenched streets of Rome.
Wow. That's so much more vivid than just saying, I went to Italy.
Right. You're inviting her into your world. You're making the experience come alive.
It's like you're bringing her along with you.
Exactly.
I love that.
And there's a psychological reason why this works. Storytelling creates connection, and it makes you more memorable.
Yeah, it's like you're leaving a lasting impression.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, so you've covered a lot of ground here. Confidence, emotional intelligence, rapport, storytelling. What else is on the list?
Well, this next one's a bit delicate,
Okay.
but it's important to discuss.
Touch, yeah.
It's-
That's definitely a sensitive area,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about age gap relationships. So what do the sources say about this?
Well, they emphasize starting with light platonic touches.
Okay.
A friendly pat on the back, light touch on the arm, while you're making a point, you know.
Doesn't suffice something.
Right. It's about gauging comfort levels
Yeah.
and proceeding with sensitivity.
Right. You don't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
Exactly.
But I think it's really important to be mindful of potential power dynamics in these situations.
Absolutely. And the sources are very clear that you only progress to more meaningful gestures, like holding hands if those initial touches are well received.
Okay. So it's all about consent and respect,
Absolutely.
especially when there's an age difference.
Yes.
Okay. So is there anything else from the sources before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Yes. There's one more critical element, bridging the gap between cultures and generations.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Generational differences can definitely be a factor. In relationships with an age gap, so what kind of insights do the sources provide on this?
Well, they advise being mindful of those differences, but not in a way that feels forced or inauthentic.
Okay, so you're not trying to be hip or pretend to be part of a younger generation.
Exactly.
So how do you navigate that gap authentically?
It's about showing genuine interest in her world.
Okay.
If she mentions a show you've never heard of, take the time to learn about it and discuss it with her.
So you're making an effort.
Yes, you're showing that you're adaptable, curious,
Yeah.
and willing to connect on her level.
Yeah, it's about meeting her where she is without losing yourself in the process.
Precisely. And ultimately, that ties into another key point, patience. Yes, rushing things can be a red flag. Meaningful relationships take time to develop, and patience demonstrates respect for her boundaries and the natural progression of things.
So it's not about rushing into anything.
Yeah.
It's about letting things unfold organically
Exactly.
and respecting the process.
Absolutely.
Patience is a virtue, they say,
It really is.
especially when it comes to building strong connections.
I couldn't agree more. It definitely does not. Rushing things can sometimes be, a sign of ulterior motives,
Right.
which is something to be mindful of in any relationship, really.
Yeah, for sure. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Confidence, emotional intelligence, rapport building, leadership, physical presentation, storytelling, touch, cultural awareness, and patience. That's quite a tapestry of elements.
It is. It's amazing.
What I find really interesting is how all these elements kind of work together. It's not just a checklist,
Right.
It's more like...
Yeah, it's more like a recipe.
Yeah.
You need all the ingredients to create something truly compelling.
Exactly. It's not about mastering any one single trait.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating this whole combination of qualities and actions.
Precisely.
And it's important to note that, these insights aren't just about attracting a partner. These are principles that can enrich any relationship, romantic or otherwise.
It's so true.
Yeah. Like thinking about these concepts can help us build stronger connections with anyone, regardless of age or background.
Absolutely. It's about how we relate to each other as human beings.
Yeah, just that human connection.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to a thought-provoking question for you, our listener.
Ooh, I love these final questions. What do you have for us today?
So how might these principles apply in different relationship dynamics, regardless of age? Think about your connections with friends, family, colleagues. Could these ideas help you cultivate deeper, more fulfilling relationships across the board?
That's such a great question. It really encourages us to think about how these concepts extend far beyond just romantic relationships.
Exactly. It's about the broader spectrum of human connection.
I like that. Now, while we're on the topic of connection, there's another compelling aspect that our sources explore that I'd like to touch on: the art of mirroring.
Oh, yes, mirroring.
So what is mirroring exactly?
Well, in the context of emotional intelligence, mirroring involves subtly reflecting back your partner's body language, their tone of voice, even certain words or phrases.
Okay.
It's a way of subconsciously signaling, I'm with you, I understand you.
So it's like you're creating this sense of resonance and harmony in the interaction.
Exactly.
Interesting.
The sources emphasize, though, that mirroring should be done subtly, almost unconsciously. It's not about mimicking, but about creating a sense of shared experience.
Right.
So, for example, if she leans forward while sharing something excitedly, you might subtly lean in as well, reflecting her energy and engagement.
It's like a physical manifestation of you being present and attuned to her,
Exactly.
both physically and emotionally.
Precisely. And it's a powerful tool for building rapport and deepening connection.
It's like you're speaking, the subtle language of empathy and understanding.
Exactly. Now, along with mirroring, the sources also delve into the concept of emotional validation.
Emotional validation. Okay, that sounds important. What does that entail?
Well, it's about acknowledging and respecting your partner's feelings, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. It's about saying, I hear you, I see your perspective, and your feelings are valid.
So you're creating a space
Yeah.
where she feels safe to express herself.
Exactly. Without judgment.
Right.
And the sources offer a compelling example.
Okay, I'm curious.
Imagine she's upset about a disagreement with a friend.
Right.
Instead of immediately offering solutions or dismissing her feelings, you might say something like, that sounds really frustrating. It makes sense that you're feeling hurt.
So you're validating the emotional experience.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with the situation itself.
Precisely. And this can be incredibly powerful for deepening intimacy and building trust.
It shows that you're not just listening to her words, but you're actually understanding and empathizing with her emotional state.
Exactly. Now, while we're on the topic of navigating sensitive situations, our sources also offer some intriguing insights into handling disagreements.
Oh, disagreements. Those are inevitable in any relationship. What do they have to say about that?
Well, they emphasize the importance of regulating your own emotions first.
Okay, that's a good starting point.
If you find yourself getting heated, take a moment to pause, breathe, and collect yourself before responding.
Yeah, it's about responding, not reacting.
Exactly. And the sources suggest using I statements instead of accusatory you statements.
I guess good
For example, instead of saying, you're being unreasonable,
Right.
try saying, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. Can we take a break and come back to this later?
So you're taking ownership of your own feelings and
Exactly.
expressing them in a way that doesn't put the other person on the defensive.
Precisely. And the sources also highlight the importance of active listening during disagreements.
Oh, active listening is so important in any conversation, really, but especially during conflict.
Absolutely. It's about truly hearing and trying to understand the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
Yep.
And the sources suggest reflecting back what you've heard to make sure you're understanding correctly. Like, so what you're saying is, it sounds like you're feeling.
Okay.
It shows that you're making a genuine effort to see things from her side.
Yeah, that can go a long way in de-escalating a conflict
Yeah.
and finding common ground.
Exactly. And it ties back to those broader themes of emotional intelligence and empathy that we've been discussing.
Right. It's about approaching disagreements
Yeah.
as opportunities for growth and understanding, rather than battles to be won or lost.
Absolutely.
No. I want to shift gears a bit and talk about something that I think is really important in any relationship, but especially in this dynamic.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability, yeah. That can be a really powerful force
You can.
in deepening connection. So what do the sources have to say about this?
Well, they suggest that sharing your own experiences, thoughts, and feelings in a genuine and authentic way can create a profound sense of intimacy.
So it's about letting down your guard.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be seen.
Exactly.
Flaws and all.
Flaws and all.
I think there's a difference between being vulnerable and oversharing,
Oh, absolutely.
or like dumping your emotional baggage on someone.
Right, and the sources emphasize that. Vulnerability is not about that. It's about choosing to share something meaningful
Yeah.
and personal. That invites connection.
It's about being selective
Yes.
with what you reveal.
Exactly.
And making sure that it's something that will actually deepen trust and intimacy.
Right.
So instead of just saying, I had a tough day, you might share a specific experience that made you feel vulnerable.
That's a great example.
Yeah. It's about going beyond that surface level.
Yes.
And letting her see your human side.
Precisely. And the sources point out that vulnerability can be contagious
Oh, that's
when
interesting.
you open up. It creates a safe space for her to do the same.
So it fosters this reciprocity
Exactly.
and mutual trust.
Yes.
I like that. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of building connection that our sources explore, the art of giving compliments.
Oh, compliments. Everyone loves a good compliment.
Yeah.
But I think there's an art to it. So what do the sources have to say about giving compliments effectively?
Well, they emphasize the importance of being genuine and specific.
Okay,
So instead of generic compliments like, you look nice,
Right.
try focusing on something you genuinely admire or appreciate.
So it's about noticing
Yeah.
and acknowledging the details
Yeah.
that make her unique and special.
Exactly. For example, you might say, I love your sense of humor. You always know how to make me laugh. Or,
Yeah.
you're so passionate about your work. It's inspiring to see.
So you're going beyond just superficial observations and highlighting the qualities that really stand out to you.
Precisely. And the sources also suggest focusing on effort and actions rather than just physical attributes. So instead of complimenting her appearance, you might say, I really appreciate how thoughtfully you planned this date.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or, you're such a great listener. I always feel heard when I talk to you.
So you're acknowledging her effort,
Exactly.
her character, her unique contributions to the relationship.
Precisely. I like that.
And these kinds of compliments can go a long way in building confidence, fostering appreciation, and deepening connection.
It's about making her feel seen, valued, and cherished for who she truly is.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about something that can be tricky, especially when there's an age gap.
Humor.
Ah, yes, humor. Generational gaps can definitely create some comedic divides. So what do the sources say about navigating those differences?
Well, they emphasize the importance of being aware
Yeah.
of potential differences. In comedic sensibilities,
Right.
what you find hilarious might fall flat or even be offensive
Yeah.
to someone from a different generation.
Yeah, you have to be sensitive
Absolutely.
to the content. And the sources suggest approaching humor with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness.
Okay.
So if she makes a joke that you don't quite understand, don't be afraid to ask, what's so funny about that?
No, that's a good approach.
It shows you're interested in her perspective and willing to learn about her sense of humor.
Right.
It's about embracing the opportunity for shared laughter and connection, even if it requires a bit of explanation along the way.
Yeah, it's all about that connection.
Exactly. And the sources also suggest sharing your own sense of humor authentically, but being mindful of potential differences in comedic styles.
Right. So it's about finding that sweet spot where your humor can connect and creating shared moments of joy without causing offense or misunderstanding.
Precisely.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about modern relationships without talking about technology.
Now, technology, yes.
It's everywhere. So what insights do our sources offer on navigating this new landscape.
Well, they acknowledge that texting and social media can be great tools for staying connected, but they also emphasize the importance of prioritizing in-person interactions.
So it's all about balance.
Exactly.
Finding that balance.
Between digital connection and real-world experiences.
Correct.
And the sources suggest using texting and social media to stay in touch throughout the day,
Okay.
but reserving more meaningful conversations and quality time for face-to-face interactions.
We're not having like a deep conversation over text message.
All right.
You're saving that for when you can actually be present with each other.
Precisely. And the sources also caution against over-reliance on texting for resolving conflicts or having difficult conversations.
Oh yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
It can be, because tone and nuance can be easily lost in text messages,
Right.
which can escalate conflicts rather than resolve them.
Exactly.
So the sources recommend saving those conversations for in-person interactions where
Yeah.
you can fully express yourself and engage each other's emotional responses.
It's about using technology wisely and recognizing its limitations when it comes to navigating the complexities of human relationships.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of navigating complexities, let's talk about something that can be a real challenge
Yeah.
in any relationship. Jealousy,
Yes.
that green-eyed
I'd
monster,
let it rear its ugly head.
it can. So what does the sources recommend for dealing with jealousy?
Well, they emphasize the importance of open and honest communication.
Yeah, no.
If you're feeling jealous, don't bile it up. Don't try to ignore it.
Right.
Share your feelings with your partner in a calm and respectful way.
So you're expressing your concerns, but you're not resorting to accusations or blame.
Exactly. For example, instead of saying, you were flirting with that guy,
Right.
you might say, I felt a bit uncomfortable when you were talking to that guy at the party. Can we talk about it?
Okay, so you're expressing your feelings,
Yes.
but in a way that invites dialogue and understanding.
Precisely.
And the sources also suggest focusing on building trust and security in a relationship.
Yes, trust is essential.
It really is.
Yeah.
So how do they recommend cultivating that trust?
Well, they highlight the importance of being reliable, keeping your promises, following through on your commitments.
So it's about demonstrating through your actions
Yeah.
that you're trustworthy and dependable.
Exactly. And the sources also suggest being transparent and open in your communication. If you're going to be late, let her know. If you're going out with friends, tell her about it.
So it's about being upfront and honest, even about seemingly small things.
Exactly. These small acts of transparency can go a long way in building trust and reducing the potential for jealousy.
Yeah, it's about creating that sense of safety and security,
Absolutely.
knowing that you're both on the same page
Yes.
and committed to open communication.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, let's talk about something that can be really difficult, but also incredibly important: apologizing.
Yes.
Essential for any healthy relationship. So what do the sources have to say about apologizing effectively?
Well, they emphasize the importance of sincerity
Yeah.
and taking responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
Genuine apology should acknowledge the hurt you caused and express remorse for your behavior.
It's about going beyond a simple "I'm sorry"
Right.
and demonstrating that you understand the impact of your actions.
Exactly. And the sources suggest avoiding excuses or justifications for your behavior.
Okay.
Instead, focus on owning your mistakes and expressing a genuine desire to make things right.
It's about taking ownership
Yes.
and demonstrating a willingness to learn and grow
Exactly.
from the experience.
And the sources also highlight the importance of following through on your apology with changed behavior.
Right. It's not enough to just say the words. You have to actually show that you're committed to doing better.
Absolutely, I'm making amends.
A sincere apology, coupled with changed behavior, can be a powerful force for healing and strengthening the relationship.
It shows that you value the relationship
Yes.
and you're willing to put in the effort to maintain it.
So, we've talked a lot about the importance of communication and understanding, but I want to touch on something that can be particularly challenging in relationships with an age gap, navigating differences in energy levels and lifestyle preferences.
Oh, yes. That's a big one.
It is. Different stages of life often come with different rhythms and routines. So what do the sources suggest for navigating those differences?
Well, they emphasize the importance of open communication and a willingness to compromise.
Mhm.
It's about finding a balance that honors both your needs and preferences.
So it's not about one person having to completely adapt to the other person's lifestyle.
Right.
It's about finding that middle ground
Exactly.
where you can both be happy.
And the sources suggest talking openly about your respective needs and preferences,
Okay.
whether it's the amount of sleep you need, your ideal social calendar, or your preferred ways to spend your free time.
Right.
It's about being honest with each other and finding ways to create a shared life. That feels good for both of you.
I like that.
And the sources also highlight the importance of being flexible and adaptable.
Yeah. Flexibility is key
It really is.
in any relationship.
Especially when you're navigating differences in lifestyle.
Exactly.
And the sources suggest being willing to try new things and step outside of your comfort zone from time to time.
So you're embracing the opportunity to learn from each other and experience new things together.
Exactly. And they also encourage finding activities that you can enjoy together, even if you have different energy levels.
So you're looking for that common ground,
Right.
those shared interests that bridge the differences.
Precisely. For example, if she loves going out dancing and you prefer quieter evenings at home,
Yeah.
perhaps you could find a middle ground by attending concerts or live music events together.
Right.
It's about finding creative solutions that honor both your needs and preferences.
That's a good example. So we've talked about navigating differences in energy levels and lifestyle preferences. But what about differences in long-term goals and aspirations?
Oh, it's a big one.
It is, especially when there's an age gap.
Right.
People are in different stages of life
Exactly.
with different priorities and ambitions.
And the sources emphasize the importance of having open and honest conversations about your respective visions for the future.
So you're not shying away from those conversations.
No.
You're being upfront
Absolutely.
about your goals and aspirations.
Even if they differ from your partners,
Right.
and the sources suggest having these conversations early on in the relationship
Okay?
to ensure that you're both on the same page about your long-term trajectories.
Yeah, you don't want to be
Yeah.
years down the line
Yeah.
and suddenly realize you're on completely different paths.
Exactly.
So it's about aligning on your values
Yes.
and ensuring that your paths are compatible.
Even if they're not identical.
Right.
And the sources also suggest being respectful
Yes.
of each other's choices and aspirations,
Right.
even if you don't fully understand or agree with them.
So you're supporting each other's growth and evolution,
Exactly.
even if it takes you in different directions. That's beautiful. Now, I want to talk about something that can be a little bit sensitive, but it's important to address. Finances.
Yes, finances.
Money can be a major source of conflict
Yeah,
in any relationship.
it can.
So what do the sources say about navigating potential differences in financial situations?
Well, they emphasize the importance of
Mm-hmm.
transparency and open communication
Yeah.
about your respective financial situations and spending habits.
So you're being upfront about your financial reality
Yes,
and making sure that you're on the same page when it comes to money management.
Exactly. And the sources suggest discussing your financial goals, your attitudes towards spending and saving, and any debts or financial obligations you may have.
Right.
It's about creating a sense of shared responsibility
Yeah.
and financial transparency.
So you're both in the loop
Exactly.
and you're working together
Yes.
to manage your finances.
And the sources also highlight the importance of being respectful of each other's financial contributions, regardless of who earns more or less.
Right. It's not about keeping score.
No.
It's about valuing each other's contributions
Exactly.
and recognizing that.
Perfect.
Financial equality doesn't necessarily mean earning the same amount of money.
Precisely.
Now, let's talk about something that can be really challenging for couples with an age gap, dealing with judgment or criticism from others.
Ah, yes. The peanut gallery.
It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. So what do the sources recommend for handling this?
Well, they emphasize the importance of focusing on your own happiness and the strength of your connection.
So you're not letting the opinions of others dictate your relationship.
Exactly.
You're prioritizing your own feelings and the well-being of your relationship.
Precisely.
And the sources suggest surrounding yourselves
Right.
with supportive friends and family members
Yeah.
who respect your choices.
And celebrate your happiness.
It's about building a strong support system
Right.
that shields you from negativity
All right.
and reinforces the validity of your relationship.
And I think it's also important to set boundaries with people who are critical or judgmental.
Absolutely.
You're protecting your relationships.
From negativity.
And asserting your right to choose your own partner.
Exactly. It's your life,
It is.
your relationship,
Yeah.
and you get to decide who you share it with.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now,
Let's talk about another potential challenge. navigating differences in family dynamics and expectations.
Oh, family dynamics. That can be a tricky one.
It can, especially when there's an age gap.
Right?
Different families have different values and traditions.
Exactly.
And sometimes those differences can create friction.
And the sources emphasize the importance of open communication and a willingness to understand each other's family backgrounds and expectations.
So you're being sensitive
Yeah.
to the complexities of family relationships.
Yes.
And recognizing that each family has its own unique dynamics.
Precisely.
And the sources suggest.
Taking the time to get to know each other's families, respecting their traditions and values, and finding ways to bridge any potential differences.
So you're creating a sense of harmony
Yes.
and understanding between your families.
Absolutely. Recognizing that you're building a shared life. That encompasses both of your family histories.
Beautifully said.
And I think it's also important to remember that you have the right to set boundaries with family members who are overly critical or intrusive.
Absolutely.
You're protecting your relationship
Yes.
from negativity.
And asserting your right
Yeah.
to make your own choices about your partner and your future.
Exactly. Now, I want to shift gears a bit
Yeah.
and talk about something that's really important for maintaining a healthy and fulfilling relationship, keeping that spark alive.
Ah, yes. The eternal flame.
Exactly.
It can be a challenge.
It can, especially when you've been together for a while.
Right.
So what did the sources recommend for maintaining that sense of excitement and passion?
Well, they emphasize the importance of continuing to date each other, even after you've been together for a while.
Oh, I love that.
It's about making an effort to keep the romance alive and prioritize quality time together.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy.
No, not at all.
Just those little moments
Exactly.
of connection and appreciation.
And the sources suggest planning regular date nights, trying new things together, and finding ways to surprise each other with thoughtful gestures.
So you're keeping the flame burning
Yes.
by injecting novelty and excitement
Precisely.
into the relationship.
And the sources also highlight the importance of physical intimacy and affection.
Right. That's an important part of a romantic relationship.
It is.
So what do they have to say about that?
Well, they suggest making time for physical intimacy, even when life gets busy.
So you're prioritizing that connection,
Yes,
making it a regular part of your routine.
exactly. And the sources also suggest exploring each other's desires and needs, being open to trying new things, and communicating openly about what feels good.
So you're keeping that spark alive
Yes.
by keeping the lines of communication open
Yeah,
and being willing to explore and experiment together.
absolutely.
That's awesome. Now, as we delve deeper into the nuances of long-term relationships, I want to talk about something that's inevitable: change.
Ah, yes.
Life is full of surprises,
It is.
and relationships inevitably evolve over time.
They do.
So what do the sources recommend for navigating those transitions?
Well, they emphasize the importance of adaptability and a willingness to grow together.
So it's about recognizing that change is inevitable
Yes.
and being open to evolving.
Both as individuals and as a couple.
Exactly.
And the sources suggest communicating openly about the changes you're experiencing, supporting each other through difficult times, and finding ways to adapt to new circumstances.
So you're weathering the storms together
Yes,
and emerging stronger as a result.
precisely.
Love that.
And the sources also highlight the importance of seeking professional help if needed.
Oh, that's such an important point.
It is.
Sometimes couples therapy or individual counseling can be incredibly beneficial
It can.
for navigating challenges.
And strengthening the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of strength and commitment to seek support when you need it.
It really is. It's about prioritizing the health and well-being
Yeah,
of the relationship
absolutely.
and recognizing that. Sometimes outside help can provide valuable guidance and support.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, Seeker. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on something that I think is really important. The sources really emphasize the importance of celebrating each other's successes and milestones.
Oh, absolutely.
It's such a beautiful way to strengthen the bond and foster a sense of shared joy.
It really is.
So what insights do the sources offer on this?
Yeah, they suggest acknowledging each other's accomplishments, big or small, and finding ways to celebrate them together.
So it's about sharing in each other's triumphs
Yes,
and recognizing the hard work and dedication that went into achieving them.
exactly.
And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant.
No, not at all.
It can be as simple as expressing your pride and admiration or planning a special dinner together.
Or just taking a moment to acknowledge and appreciate each other's efforts.
Right. It's about creating that culture of celebration
Yes.
and mutual support within the relationship. Well, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the dynamics between older men and younger women. We hope you've gained some valuable insights, and maybe even some food for thought about your own relationships.
It's been a fascinating journey through the intricacies of human connection.
It really has. And remember, these principles
Yeah.
can apply to all kinds of relationships, not just romantic ones. So whether you're looking to strengthen your bond
Right.
with a partner, a friend, a family member, or even a colleague, we hope these insights will help you cultivate deeper, more fulfilling connections.
Absolutely.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Until next time.
See you then.